Hey, what's up, everybody? The V Club here. Alright, the Villain Club. Because this is the place where we could talk about anything and everything, and nothing is off the table. And I called it, alright? I said, hey, Trump's gonna win. I voted for Trump. I said all that. And I'm not like some MAGA kind of guy or whatever, but just a guy with common sense. And it's common sense to see how bad things are in this country. And in order to facilitate change, you got to vote to facilitate change. And that's what we did. We voted for Trump. And Trump won. All right. Because Kamala wouldn't have been a symbol or even, invoke change. Because she would have just carried over the Biden legacy, anyways. And maybe further into her political ambition into simply just going further out in progression in progressiveness, I guess you could say, farther left than what Biden has been doing is what I believe. And she would have just, let me just say it nice, it fucked everything up even more. All right, because Democrats are terrible and they don't know how to run a company nor government, as they obviously mismanage their funds, thinking that there's no ceiling and unlimited spending and forgiveness of people's debts and things like that. They love giving handouts, right? Like, how's that gonna benefit us people when we got to pay for all this crap and bullshit of their dumbass decisions that they do? And so we got to, go with some change here. So with that, Trump won, right? And so, the blame game continues, and some of the Democrats are now are pretty much starting the future, right, of what they're trying to be, which is they're trying to go into a future after Trump, because Trump's going to be now, right, at least in the forefront, and 2028 is the future right now, in terms of the upcoming election again. Trump can't run again since this is his now second term that's coming up, and so that's what they're doing, right? So before we get into that, I wanted to look into a homage, paying homage and a homage of some of the bullshiz of Kamala real quick. But when you look at what she did and what she is and what she does, it's like, man, she just plain sucks. So let's see here. This is new to me right here. So reporter can't believe Karine Jean-Pierre's excuse for Trump's win. You won't either. Let's hear it. This is new to me. I want to see what they make up here. Listen. Karine Jean-Pierre is definitely a DEI hire. She sucks. I heard you earlier in the brief. She sucks, and she's such a bullshitter. Glad that she'll be gone soon. So KGP offended when reporter points out hypocrisy in Biden's messaging about Trump. Let's hear it.
Talking about the pandemic's role in the outcome of this election. And it sounds like that is being looked at internally as potentially one of the causes of this outcome. But Richie Torres, the congressman, tweeted, Donald Trump has no greater friend than the far left, which has managed to alienate historic numbers of Latinos, blacks, Asians, and Jews from the Democratic Party with absurdities like defund the police or from the river to the sea or Latinx.
Fact.
Is the administration, campaign, the Democratic Party looking at the pandemic as the cause rather than, is that easier than looking in the mirror?
So look, let's step back here. I think I've been, and the president and the vice president has been pretty clear in understanding that the American people have spoken and respecting that. I think we have tried to be incredibly respectful of what happened 2 nights ago. And we're going to continue to do that. And I'm not going to speak to every person in the Democratic Party who has an opinion or a thought. I'm just not. It is not something that I'm going to do. I talked about the political toll on incumbent parties around the world as a data point, right? As something that we have seen pretty consistently with G7 allies in this time. And obviously, one of the things that occurred was the pandemic. It did. It caused disruption. It caused the supply chain to be disrupted and caused the economy to be turned upside down. While we put policies, and we are, in fact, leading the world on the economy, it doesn't stop the fact that there has been a political toll for incumbents. That is something that I'm telling you as a data point to share, because we know that you guys would have questions. That's a data point that I'm using. And I'm also saying that there's going to be election experts in the next days, weeks, months, who are going to, again, looking under the hood, kick the tires, trying to figure out exactly what happened 2 nights ago. And so they're the pundits. They're going to speak to that. They're the experts. And so we'll have more information as they look at the data. And so we'll leave that to them. And so I'm offering you our perspective, our thoughts, how we're going to move for the next 74 days. And I think what Americans should be assured of is that this is a president that's going to put the American people first. That's what people can be assured for.
Is examination happening at all inside, though? Because as Gabe mentioned, this
What the hell is she talking about, man?
Millions of Americans that they're going to wake up day after the election if Trump won and have their rights stripped away, that democracy would crumble, and the president said today we're going to be okay. So how do you square that?
I can't square that. I'm going to square that in a way that hopefully makes sense, because I've been answering this question multiple times. The American people made the decision. There was an election 2 nights ago. There was. And it was a free and fair election. And we respect the election process. We do. And Americans spoke.
They didn't.
And so
to
the
that
job
point,
of the president is to make sure we respect that. The job of the president is to make sure that we have a peaceful transfer of power. That is what the American people deserve. And that's what we're going to, it's not complicated. It's truly as simple as that. As simple as that. The president called, the president-elect invited him to the White House. You know why? Because that's customary. That is customary. That is what you do. If you respect what the American people decided, that's what you do. And that's what the president's going to make sure that the Trump transition has what it needs.
She's drones on.
Which is being led, obviously,
That's
by
why she's such a bullshitter.
Here. Why? Because the president wants to lead by example. It's not complicated. It really isn't. And, that's important.
Example, is the message to people who are fearful based on what the messaging was about the state?
Well, now you're just twisting everything around, and that's really unfair. No, it is. No, Jackie, it's unfair, because I've been standing here trying to be very respectful to what happened the last 2 nights ago. Being respectful. I've been standing here saying that we respect the decision that the American people made. I've been standing here and saying that the president's going to put the American people first. I've been standing here talking about how the president's going to make sure that they get what they deserve, which is a peaceful transfer of power. I do not appreciate having my words twisted. I am being very clear.
I don't even know what this doesn't even. Let's see. Reporter can't believe KGP's excuse for Trump's win. Does she even give an excuse? Because I don't see it. I just didn't see it. Yeah, I don't know. It's just she's such a bullshitter. But let me see here. Before we come back to this, let's take a look at. Oh, we got to see this right here. I got to see this right here.
Tomorrow you have to stand up and tell Kamala that you've had enough. You can't take anymore. You just can't. What? They're all screaming, fire, please get him. I mean, what a terrible job, what they have done to our country. And you're going to say that to her. You're going to say, you've done a terrible job, you're grossly incompetent, we're not going to take it anymore. Kamala, you're fired, get the hell out.
Yeah,
get
baby.
Get out of here. You're out of here. Get out of here.
That's exactly what. Too bad he didn't do that at his victory speech. That should have been the first line right there at his victory speech when it was declared that he was he won re-election. Kamala, you're fired. Yeah, that would have been great. Let me see here. Let's see what this. I'm trying to look for some famous lines of Kamala. Let's see if they play it here. Bumbling incompetence.
This isn't just YouTube, it's Blux. Real, raw, and ridiculously fun. No fluff, no fakes. Get ready for a Blux experience. Smash subscribe. Love ya.
So the United States shares a very important relationship, which is an alliance with the Republic of North Korea. And it is an alliance that is strong and enduring. We are in the midst of a public health epidemic that has taken the lives of over 220 million Americans in just the last several months. We're looking at over 220 million Americans who just in the last several months died. Well, the press is here. I got some words. I got the vocabulary. And my pronunciation is perfect. You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you.
Do you have plans to visit the border?
Not today. But I have before, and I'm sure I will again. What else do we know about this population, 18 through 24? They are stupid. That is why we put them in dormitories, and they have a resident assistant. They make really bad decisions. I see our college students up there. And let me just tell you, I love Gen Z. I don't know if some people, I love Gen Z.
Yeah, she calls them stupid, but she loves Gen Z.
So, okay, for the older adults, this is going to be a humbling thing I'm about to share with you. If someone is 18 years old today, they were born in 2005. Oh, yeah, check that out. Think about that for a minute. Do you know, okay, a bit of a history lesson. Do you know that the women's teams were not allowed to have brackets until 2022? Think about that, and talk about progress, better late than never, but progress, and what that has done, because of course when, I had a bracket, it's not broken completely, but I won't talk about my bracket. But you know what, how we love March Madness, and even just now allowing the women to have brackets and what that does to encourage people to talk more about the women's teams, to watch them. Now they're being covered, and this is the reality. People used to say, oh, women's sports, who's interested? Well, if you can't see it, you won't be. But when you see it, you realize, oh.
What do you see as the biggest national security challenge confronting the U.S.? What is the thing that worries you and keeps you up at night?
Frankly, one of them is our democracy. We must work together to see where we are headed, where we are going, and our vision for where we should be, but also see it as a moment, yes, to together address the challenges and to work on the opportunities. She was part of our culture. Yes, we wear those notorious BIG t-shirts with a lot of pride. But since she passed, there are parents reminding their children that she helped their lives. We have to know that sometimes people will open the door for you and leave it open, sometimes they won't. And then you need to kick that fucking door down. Excuse my language.
If you like the gaff reel, make sure to subscribe to Blux for more awesome content from our very favorite Biden administration. That has made America so miserable.
Definitely cringe, right? Yeah, funny stuff. I don't know. It's just.
I grew up understanding the children of the community are the children of the community. In one term, he has already, yes, you may clap. You need to get to go and need to be able to get where you need to go to do the work and get home. We did it, Joe. You're gonna be the next president of the United States. I don't know what's wrong with you young people. You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context. I'm a gun owner. Tim Walz is a gun. I did not know that. If somebody breaks in my house, they're getting shot.
Yes, I hear that. I hear that.
Probably should not have said that.
But
my staff will deal with that later. Who doesn't love a yellow school bus, right? Can you raise your hand if you love a yellow school bus, right?
All right, we could just go on and on at this cringe. All right, so I just wanted to play some greatest hits there. And the one-liner, "You're fired." Right? And so, you know what was interesting is, let me see if I can find it. I saw this headline here earlier. Let me see. Right here, where Stephen A. Smith reacts to Trump's comeback win. It's very interesting because, you know, he pretty much blamed Michelle Obama and Oprah as the reasons why they didn't really set a good example for Kamala, you know. And all these celebrity endorsements really showed that it was empty, you know. And so that's the whole thing with why Kamala just really didn't really bring much to the table in the end when you really look at it. And so she lost. All right. So now that transitions me into this is a current result so far. Not everything is fully counted, as you can see. Everything is about the remaining states still counting. It has 99% reporting, 96 here at Nevada, which shows Trump winning Nevada. And the only other one that's still counting, that's really behind, is Arizona. You can see there, 82% reporting. So currently, this is where it stands, 301 to 226. All right. Even with these independent party candidates, if you combine these four, category, names and category here, and let's just say they took the votes away from Kamala, right? The Democratic Party. I mean, even if you add those together here, Trump would have beaten her regardless. All right, so that's really telling how much she really lost. All right, and so that right there is the results as of right now. It's not full 100% yet, but it's getting there slowly. All right, and then news came out the other day. This right here, Gavin Newsom's such a bitch. Man, he's just a bitch for the Democrats. All right, and so let me see here. I'm gonna jump into. I'm gonna look at KTLA. KTLA always was very interesting to me. Every time I go to LA before, I always watch KTLA for news updates and stuff. And then they had hot women doing the news and all that. So let's see if they still do. I haven't watched KTLA in a long time. That's in the LA area. All right, let's see
As
here.
you mentioned, in a historic decision from President-elect Trump naming that first female White House chief of staff. And as the president-elect picks out his cabinet, he'll have a Republican Senate to work with.
Smooth, calm, professional transition.
The federal government prepares for changes as President-elect Trump readies his team for Inauguration Day, January 20th. Susie Wiles will take over as White House chief of staff, the first woman to the position in history. And Republicans are on track to...
She looks like a whip, man. Like, don't mess with her. That's what I mean, like a whip, man. Like, you don't want to mess with her. She'll bite your head off.
Control Congress, winning the Senate and inching closer to taking the House. Total control would be a win for the GOP for any cabinet appointments and Supreme Court pick if necessary. What the president cannot control, the Federal Reserve's monetary policy.
And funny thing is, so the Republicans is sweeping, right? So you got the presidency, right? They're winning in the House, they're winning in the Senate. Let me see what it's looking like here. Senate. Oh yeah, man, look at that. So they're so far winning in the Senate. Let's check out the look at the House. Oh man. Look at that, the House going crazy. So they're sweeping right now, right? And of course, the Supreme Court is more conservative, right-leaning, right? That so far that to the further to the right that right now there's been whispers of Sotomayor, the Hispanic Supreme Court Justice judge. Is having a little bit of health issues and is planning on retiring pretty soon. So much as to maybe stepping out during the Trump presidency, which would be able to afford Trump to make the next pick. So guess what Democrats are doing, like bitches that they are? They are trying to pressure her to retire or step down now before he gets inaugurated in January, right? Because and that way Biden can appoint a new judge or a Supreme Court justice just before he gets sworn in, because once he's in, then he gets to pick. So they're trying to prevent that and just push Sotomayor out. They're just bitches,
President-elect Trump mused about firing Fed Chair Jerome Powell, or even bringing the Fed under control of the executive branch.
Some of the president-elect's advisors have suggested that you should resign. If he asked you to leave, would you go?
No. Do you believe that the president has the power to fire or demote you, and has the Fed determined the legality of a president demoting at will any of the other governors with leadership positions?
Not permitted under the law.
Trump is reportedly considering these three names for Secretary of State: former National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien, Senator Marco Rubio of Florida, and former Ambassador to Germany Rick Grinnell, which would also be historic as he would be the first openly gay Secretary of State. As for Secretary of Defense, Trump is reported to be looking at Congressman Mike Waltz of Florida and former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Trump has said once he takes office, he wants to start the largest mass deportation program of people who are in this country illegally, starting with convicted criminals. But there's resistance in California to a new Trump administration. Governor Gavin Newsom called a special session to begin next month in an effort to form a plan around Trump's proposed deportations. Returning President Trump shot back on Truth Social about Newsom, quote, Trump-proofing California, saying in part, people are being forced to leave due to his and others' insane policy decisions, like ridiculously rerouting millions of gallons of water a day from the north out into the Pacific Ocean rather than using it free of charge for the towns, cities, and farms dotted all throughout California. They're making it impossible to build a reasonably priced car. The unchecked and unbalanced homeless catastrophe, the cost of everything, in particular groceries, is out of control.
All facts.
Federally, the transfer of power is promised to be peaceful. We know President Biden invited
Gavin
Trump.
Newsom calls on a special session, all right, because he's a little bitch. Let's look at AP News here, all right. to protect liberal policies from the Trump presidency, right? So he calls on this special session so he could Trump-proof the things. We heard what Trump said on his Truth Social, and he resoundingly defeated Kamala Harris. All right, so effectively reunited California's resistance campaign against conservative policies. The freedoms we hold dear in California are under attack, and we won't sit idle, Newsom said. Newscum, right? The office said that they're already ready to Trump-proof California's laws. So they're going to be resistive because they're trying to protect illegals. They're just a bitch for illegals. They're a bitch for progressiveness. And they're really just destroying California, right? Him, Bonta, Rob Bonta is a bitch too. All these fools in these blue liberal cities, right? Kathy Hochul, straight bitch. Letitia James, straight bitch. Healy, straight bitch. Right? All these Democrats, alright, they're all a bunch of whining, conniving, straight up bitches. Alright? They're too progressive, and the country voted. Alright? All these places, they're just, it's the stuff is way too progressive for people's good, and they don't want it. People don't care. People don't care about, transgender surgeries for prisoners. People don't care about the Green New Deal policy of pushing out all our gas, continuing to tax our gas, continuing to have high prices for PG&E. All this stuff in general. Unrealized gains, for stocks and crypto and all that. I mean, how ridiculous is that, And the list goes on and on. Continue to bring in illegals, right? That's not really real law. That's just amnesty. That's what they're trying to do. Mass amnesty. So, yeah, I agree with Newscum, because that's what he is. He's definitely Newscum. And he's straight a bitch, and he's garbage. And he's really destroyed California. Prop 36 passed, which is to kind of reform Prop 47, which caused all the issues in California with the rise in crime, the smash and grabs, you name it. Crime is up, but it's underreported because of defunding the police. And when they don't have enough personnel, they can't respond to all the calls. They can't take down reports as they normally could. And so what happens? People just get frustrated and give up. And so look what happens. It gets underreported because of that fact. So when it's underreported, they look at that like a bunch of dummies, these progressive clowns. They look at it like a bunch of dummies and be like, see, look, the crime is down because it's not reported. So these clowns are just a bunch of idiots. All right. After Trump's win, Newsom vowed to work with the president-elect, but added, "Let there be no mistake. We intend to stand with states across our nation to defend our Constitution and hold the rule of law." Well, Newsom doesn't really uphold the rule of law. He continually breaks them all the time. All the time. Right? Like, he tells people to do these things, but he doesn't do what he says. You know what I'm saying? Trump often depicts California as representing all he sees wrong in America, right? Democrats hold every statewide office in California and have commanding margins in the legislature. Congressional delegation outnumbered registered Republicans by 2-1. And Harris easily carried the state in her losing presidency, which is true. But, yeah, because when you look at it, the coastal cities dominate the Democratic landscape because, of course, you have, hundreds of thousands of people more living in the big coastal cities, right? There's not a lot of big cities further inland, into California, away from the coast and further in state. Further in state, the farther away you get away from those big cities, the more conservative people are, the more uh, right-leaning people are, right? And so it's really, and when you look at that, though, the numbers and the population of people are spread out more as you go further away from the big cities. And guess what happens? There's less numbers of those people in urban areas of California versus the, urban areas. I meant suburbs and, just big land areas of California, right? Whereas when you're in the coastal cities and all that, cities all around, along, I guess, I wouldn't say the coast, but western side of California, they have large populations, right? And you look at, say, for example, San Francisco, 1 million people, give or take. They lost a lot of people in population-wise. Same with San Jose. They were at one point, give or take, 1 million people there too. But, they lost a lot of people throughout time. But let's just go with those numbers. That right there can eclipse many cities or towns further in, and the numbers don't even come close to that. And that's why it's been, one-sided the whole time with the elites and larger population in the cities. So, the stuff that, Trump talked about is all fact, though, right? Trump called Governor Newscum during a campaign stop because of the problems that we have, that they are democratically controlled here and can't do nothing about it, right? Nation's most populous state with over its, they relentlessly lambasted the Democratic stronghold, and nation's most populous state over its large number of immigrants that are here illegally, the homeless population, and all these regulations and hoops you got to go through just to even get approved on something, or not. Trump also waded into the water rights battle with endangered smelt that has pitted environmentalists against farmers. Yeah, like what was mentioned on the news piece, water gets diverted right into the ocean rather than just giving it to the farmers because they want to protect salmon or protect smelt. When it's like, isn't it important to have farmers to plant crops and all that stuff? And, it's stuff that we should be, I guess you could say, entitled to. We live here, rather than trying to save some fish. Yeah, I understand. They're endangered, right? You know what smelts look like? They're tiny little sardine-looking fish, right? That they're trying to protect. Come on, right? Really? All right. Let's see here. Trump vowed to follow through with his campaign promise of carrying out mass deportation. It's necessary. People are tired of this bullshit, and people want solutions, and the solution is we got to deport them, especially the ones that are causing. They're already here as lawbreakers, and if they're continuing to break laws by causing crime, they should just automatically get booted. They should be, the first to get booted and go if they do something criminally. So to me, that would be the way to go. But the California's Attorney General, Rob Bonnet, because he's a bitch, vowed to protect them. All right, come on, really? I can promise the undocumented immigrant community in California that I and my team have been thinking about you for months and the harm that may come from the Trump administration. We'll do everything in our power to defend you. For what? They're here illegally. Undocumented immigrants. You just said it. It's a nicer way to say it, but the bottom line is they're still illegal. And why do they need protection for? From what? So over the last 2 decades, right, last 20 years, state attorney generals have increasingly embraced the role of challenging federal executive policy. Most often it originates with the president of the opposite party. So, that it goes back to the time when George W. Bush was president and Kamala was state attorney general at one point. Things like that, right? Let's see. During Trump's first presidency, Democratic Attorney General band together to file suits over immigration, Trump's travel ban to Muslim countries, the environment, internet regulation, and other topics. He had a Muslim ban. Certain countries, there was a ban to either travel there or those travelers coming here because I think it had something to do with the origination of a lot of the people that were on the no-fly list because of maybe possible terrorism, right? Rather than take on the risk, they just say, hey, well, we're just not going to have them come in. I mean, it's protecting the country, right? The challenges typically have mixed records. Trump has one possible advantage this time around because of the federal courts, including the Supreme Court. So Newscum has called California, which has passed dozens of laws to protect abortion access, sanctuary, and for people in other states seeking abortions. State also is the first to mandate all new cars by 2035. All right, think about that. To be hydrogen, electric, or plug-in hybrids. Like really. California also extends state-funded health care to all low-income residents regardless of immigration status. See, so who's going to pay for it? We pay for that stuff, right? And who wants to pay for these expensive electric cars? All right, $50K, $100K. Yeah, it's so easy to buy these electric cars, right? Wrong. I mean, that's the problem. It's like Trump was talking about trying to, do away all that stuff because it's bullshit, And Gavin Newsom is a straight bitch because, these progressive policies are terrible, and all you dummies out there in California vote for them, and you get what you ask for, right? You want to keep screwing people, then people are just going to move, and that's what's been happening. People moving out. But anyhow, I just wanted to point that out about the further continuation of what's been going on with Kamala. A little homage to her losing, and at the same time, Gavin Newsom is trying to be Mr. Frontman now because he thinks he's some badass, but he's just a piece of shit that doesn't know how to run California as a business. He has deficit spending, these next couple years that he's trying to, borrow things and maneuver around and play around with decimals and play around with the budget to make it work. But it's so simple, right? You get rid of the high-speed rail because it's a failure. You stop with the homeless program because it's a failure. You stop, doing all this bullshit Green New Deal stuff because it's garbage, right? All that money spent no longer being budgeted can now be saved and maybe rerouted towards, the homeless and in a proper way, right? And how to fix the homeless? Well, a lot of them have addiction problems. So what do you do with those people? Well, you got to reopen, mental health clinics or hospitals. Shit. Here's an idea. All the shuttered prisons. Use those as mental health institutions. Or if not, how about just locking these people up so they could get clean and try to get them off of addiction? And that would solve your unhoused problem instantly. If you stop giving all these handouts to all these people that don't need handouts, they would be forced to work, right? Illegals, if they don't get handouts, they wouldn't be coming here. if they're doing things the right way, then we wouldn't have all these problems in California. So many ways it's so easy. But Newsom's such a dummy that he makes things so complicated. All right, so anyhow, I know he's trying to be a Captain Save-A-Ho and all that stuff. All he is a straight bitch. And so that's my take on all that. Trying to do all this special session and try to act like he's some Billy Badass, but he's just a little scumbag. And so I hope Trump just tramples him. All right. Anyhow, that's my comments on that, my thoughts on everything. Let me know what you think. Comment down below. Subscribe to the bell icon, and I'll see you next one.